What the is we doing?
Welcome back to a new episode, Shot of Info. Ding, ding, ding. Take a shot of water.
Got air.
On this episode, we'll be diving into tax returns allocations. So, can I just discuss some ideas about where we put, whether we receive a tax returns, what are tax returns, where we allocating our money, if we got any, and what's kind of like the strategy that we would take. And maybe this could be helpful for you on your personal, if you're kind of debating what to target first, like is that investment, so just cash, what's the most recommended thing? First of all, what is tax returns? That's a concept that is known here in the US, mainly when you file your taxes. So tax season just ended last week on April 18. And
hmm
actually from the day of this recording, since we're recording this on April 20. Yeah, so after you file your taxes, so you, depending on how you pay your taxes throughout the year, you either, get a big fat check from the government, or you had to write a big fat check to the government. So in this specific in this episode, we'll be diving in whenever you get money from the government. There's a lot of variables that I don't want to dive in too much into because that's a whole different realm. I'm not too familiar when it comes to taxes. I should actually. It's very good to know, but yeah, that's one thing that we definitely need to learn, since there's a lot of write-ups, a lot of benefits that you can get. Backdoors that play with taxes. But anyway, so let's say you got a fat check from the government. Like, that means that you overpay your taxes, you had dependents, or when you have a house, you also get some write-ups that you can do and get some money for the stuff that you did to the house. So you get some money, and now you have this check, and it's usually like in the thousands, you know. What now? That's the question that we're trying to answer now. What are your thoughts?
Right.
What would you begin?
So definitely, obviously, like expenses, right? So if you have any debt, that's probably one of the things that you want to get rid of as quickly as possible. So using tax returns for that, it's definitely useful. Again, I'm really diligent about not carrying debt simply because I know that it's a big financial burden if it's not taken care of. Uh, there are times where you actually do want debt in order to use that to leverage into bigger opportunities, which will net you more income later on. But we're just going with the basics here, the fundamentals. We're not looking at, starting to invest in real estate and all that. Just an individual day to day, they live in an apartment or they're renting. Like what would be the best allocation? So usually paying off debt is the first thing. After that, you would probably want to go into utilizing that cash, maybe not all of it, maybe 50% of it, into putting that into like a emergency fund, right? If you don't really have that situated for yourself. Like I know for myself, I use the tax return to kind of help complete my emergency fund. I
Mhm.
was just shy by a little bit, so I was like, I'll just wait until I get these tax returns. I'll fill up the rest of the nest egg, and now I can completely focus all the money that I've been generating to whatever else that I want to do, right? So whether that's going to be investments, if I want to buy gifts for myself or I want to buy gifts for others, want to take a trip, I have that as an opportunity now simply because I know I'm in a much better position than I was a year ago. Um, what else? So, paying off debt, emergency fund. After that, and then you can start looking at things like investments, buying, gifts if you want to buy stuff for yourself, buy stuff for others. Um, I think that's about it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's kind of like the way I would think about it. What about you?
Yeah, I have a similar approach. For me, when it comes to debt, I try not to pay off all my debt right away. I will see if it's credit cards or student loans or just mortgage, whichever has the highest interest rates, that's the first thing that I target. And the most, and the biggest one too. And then, because the thing is that, in my personal life, I have a system where, I have already this money allocating for paying off debt, like specifically. So I'm not trying to just drop this system when it comes to like paying it at once. And usually paying it at once, debt is not too recommendable. So just look at which one is, they're charging you actual interest rates, or the biggest one that has highest interest rates, and pay that off. Get it over with. I think that's one thing. Because the thing is that the check is limited, so you don't want to spend all the money in there. So once again, safety net, that's a great idea. If you haven't completed your safety net, I think that should be the second step. I agree with that. On my case, my safety net was pretty solid, so I didn't have to do that. So after that, it just went straight into an investment account, to my brokerage for my long-term portfolio. And that's where it's sitting now, right there, chilling. And I did take a portion of it too, just for like my wants.
Discretionary spending, right?
Discretionary. Yeah. So I think that's kind of it. It definitely depends on people's situations. Because for, let's say, if you're looking for moving apartments or renovating, or it's something being on your mind for a long time, and you didn't have the money to do it because it's costly. So it can be a great opportunity for you to take that in consideration. But definitely look at your financial situation first. If you can, do good and improve your financial situation, prioritize that first before doing any sort of kind of like wants, any sort of like, expenses. Because then, push, money's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah. So I think it depends by case to case. Because like if you're financially stable, then you can use this money for big renovations, maybe like a down payment for a new investment and stuff like that. So I think it's gonna play case by case. Definitely I will say just make a list on where you are and go from there.
Right. And like, we made a video before about the safety net, right? Like kind of having a lot of different things going on. So you're not just like, if everything just falls apart all of a sudden, you're not just stuck. You have different opportunities and different ways to maneuver. That's why the emergency fund is so big, right? Like 6 months worth of living expenses already covered for. Now you have the ability to maneuver if things do go bad, right? Like right now we're in like a tumultuous economic situation where we don't really know how things are going to end up in the next couple of months. Like they've been saying recession for a while, but things haven't really been going that way. Consumer spending habits, even though it's not as crazy as it was during the pandemic, it's not really down in any way. Companies are generating more revenue than they were anticipated to, right? Like people thought that people were not going to be spending money anymore. Not the case.
Exactly.
Certain ones, right? Like the things that people actually want and need. So that people don't really need, they're not really, taking their money there anymore. So again, like when the economic situation gets a little bit tougher, you'll see what people need, what the wants are, and that's usually where that consumer interest goes. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But again, not to go too off tangent with the topic that we have at hand here. I would say like one of the other things. So one of the things I've been really wanting to get into more consistently is building up a fund for myself for simply learning, right? So if I want to obtain like new skills, if I want to learn how to be again, my profession is to be a personal trainer, how to be a better trainer, right? Like I need capital in order to get certifications to learn how to do new things, right? So like one of the newest things that I've just acquired is the ability to train pre and postnatal, right? So that's an ability to work with women that are before or like in the current stage of pregnancy and afterwards, because training pre and postnatal women is different from training just anybody, right? Like there's certain things that have changed in the system or are changing as they're going through pregnancy that we need to be accounting for.
Mhm.
So like it's little things like that, right? Like you can further develop yourself in the skill set of your profession, or if you want to learn how to do something else, right? Another thing that I would easily recommend is, take that money and go join a gym or go learn some sort of martial art, right? Like you can go join a gym for jujitsu or kickboxing, Muay Thai. You have enough money allocated now with the money that you just got from the tax returns that, maybe you can spend a couple months doing that. And if you like it, then you can stick with it. And if not, no sweat off your back. At least you have that covered. You're not going into debt in order to learn the skill.
Right.
Do you have anything like that? Any kind of skills and things that you would want to use your tax returns for?
Oh no, that's I think self-improvement is like investing in yourself. That's the best way to invest the money. Definitely agree with that. Now, things that I want to learn or like invest. Well, right now I'm actually taking three different courses. I have it written right there because it's my daily reminder to do it. I'm doing the digital presence is a Google certification for like digital, marketing and all that.
Mhm.
One about critical thinking, and another one is on Ruby on Rails course that I'm taking. So it's very technical, honestly, my stuff. But another thing that I've been wanting to do and just get better at is day trading. So I've been taking your course, but I want to see if there's kind of like okay. So I think we chatted about this in the past, like doing the certified financial planner. So I've
Yep.
been, that's probably one of the things that I will probably do. It
There you
does
go.
take 4 to 6 months. So I think that's kind of like the next thing. Once I finish with all these three things going on that I have right now, that's the next thing that I will do. Invest on myself, or like the skill that I want to invest on myself. So yeah. Now, going back to the topic about where to allocate these funds, I will divide it into three. Maybe it can be, doesn't have to be like three equal parts, but I would say the first part allocated to debt, the second part allocated to like safety net, and the third part any type of investment, whether it's in yourself, whether it's in a portfolio, or on the long term, or like mortgage or whatever. I think that's how I sort of did it. I did have a little
Right.
bit, so I added some of the cash to my troubles. So that's probably not a
Yeah.
good approach, but every situation is different. So I think for most people that can work having these three different parts. Just once again, is because the money is limited, and let's say if your debt is greater than this check, you like the way that I see it when it comes to debt is a bit of psychology. It's like I don't want to pay it off, like boom, because next time I will be so tempted to like build this debt faster, but then there's not going to be a check coming by. But if I'm disciplined about like paying my debt monthly, then I'm more, conscious about my spending on the next month and the next month. And I think this is kind of like a trick that works well for me, is that, if I have some debt, it gives me discipline that I actually need to pay this off. I actually need to make the money to pay off this debt eventually.
Right. Usually, again, like stuff with like credit card debt, it's usually trying to keep the utilization under 10%.
Mhm.
So, always try to keep yourself in that range, right? If you overmax, like if you spend, like if the 10% range, again, $1,000 is a credit, you should realistically always have at least like $100. Again, if you're not paying everything in full, you should be always trying to get back to that minimum of $100 in like debt that you owe. But let's say like you have a big month in spending and now you owe $900. Well, that's going to be a lot of work to get yourself back down. But if you're consistent and disciplined about the way you go about your spending habits, one, you would never really get to that place and to begin with.
Yep.
Sometimes it happens, right? Like emergencies happen. That's why we have the credit to begin with. So when that's the situation, you'll be easily able to get back to that normal range.
Mhm.
So yeah, the three buckets basically that you categorize, right? So like, debt, safety net, investments, either in yourself or like portfolios or actual investments, assets is what I was trying to get to. And then discretionary spending, right? Like if you want to add a fourth bucket, and then you can do it as a percentage, right? So like,
That would be the lowest.
35, yeah, discretionary would be like, 5 to 10%. I would say like paying off any kind of like big debt that you have would be like anywhere from 40 to 50%. Emergency would be like 30 to 40, or your safety net would be 30 to 40, 20% in your own investment, and then, or investment in general. And then the last bit would be into discretionary.
I would do it a bit differently. Just switch the investment with the safety net. I think that's
You would go
yeah, I
20% into the safety net?
I will go a little bit more higher in the investment. So I would do like, let's say 40 on the 40 on debt. If you have one. Now there's my basic questions that you don't. 40 on the debt, 40 on investments, whatever investments it is. You can even divide that, personal and portfolios or assets. And I would do 15 on safety net and 5 on discretionary. Yeah,
Got it.
the reason for me that works better is because the investment that you do now, like in yourself or just like assets, they pay off better. They have higher returns in the long run. Whereas the safety net, you should always be building the safety net, regardless you get a check from the tax returns or not. So that should already be in your system, like that you have for a monthly basis. That's one of the reasons why I would do it like that.
So that actually, ironically enough, goes right back to the conversation we had before this one about, playing to win versus playing not to lose.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to play it safer, you put more into the safety net rather than the investments, because the investments would yield more, right? But they're a riskier play because not always you put money into like the stock market and you're going to get a great return. But yeah, I think that's pretty solid overall. That's a great way to allocate in general, right? It doesn't have to just be with the tax returns. Whenever you get a check, like from working, you should be able to distinguish what you need and figure out a system. That's usually how I go about it, right? Like, I don't have any debt, so that's not really an issue. I've completed the safety net to the want that I have for it. So now my focus is primarily just on investments and discretionary spending. But obviously, we always want to keep those discretionary spending habits good and in check. Like, you don't want to just like, oh, I don't really have to focus on the other two, so I'm just going to spend a shit ton of money on, going out all the time and buying like clothes or buying stuff that you don't really need, or that's going to devalue yourself, or that's going to devalue over time, because you're just going to throw money away. So a lot of the time, it's always a greater idea to invest it in either yourself or in assets that are going to appreciate over time. And then eventually, once you get to a position where like you have enough capital that it doesn't really matter what you do with it, then that's a different conversation, which is what we're trying to get to. And then when we get to that point, then we'll have that conversation again.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with the fact that you mentioned that this allocation shouldn't be just for the check from the tax return, but also like your paycheck. The fifth bucket that I would add is the needs category, because the needs is very important. So I would prioritize the needs, then debt, then investments, safety net, and then any discretionary ones. I think that's kind of like a good allocation or prioritization in there. For me right now, I don't get a paycheck, so yeah, I will be surviving off my safety net. So, oh well.
But you build one that's big enough now that like it's fine, right? So
it sustains me for 6 months, so I will be good. And even from there, I do have certain investments that are monthly giving me some returns. So I'm allocating that back into investments. I'm not even touching the money. So yeah, I'm pretty solid. And then for my day trading, I'm just trying to build my portfolio. So I'm not cashing out any wins yet from there. And that's kind of like also, I will consider that part of my safety net. So let's say I go broke within the next month, which I doubt it, I will like cash out everything from my day trade portfolio. So I think that's also like a part of my safety net now that I think about it. That's interesting. Cool.
Just be careful with how much fun you have in Thailand. Spend all your money.
No, I don't think so. I'll be good. But anyways, I think we can wrap it up there. I think these are solid foundations, something that I think we already talked about this in the past, but it's always good to iterate because, you know, economy is changing, our situations have changed since the past. And cool beans. Anything to add?
All right. No, that's pretty much it. Just be smart with your money, make good moves, and you will be rewarded with, you know, a good safety net that you don't have to worry about working for a while. That's kind of the reason why we do these things, so that we don't have to worry if things don't pan out the way we thought.
Yes, sir. All right. Cheers. Talk to you in the next
Cheers.
episode. We'll be from a different background for sure.
All right.
See ya.
Peace.
This is a conversation between friends.
None of what is said here should be taken as legal advice.
We are not experts in any way.
Take what resonates and leave the rest.